Well, the final option is divorce. That's why it's called the Divorce Options Workshop. So we've looked at a couple other options. Last one is divorce itself. So what does divorce actually entail? Well, it varies a little bit from state to state. There's three things that are always there for any state. We do operate in Colorado and Oregon and Washington and North Dakota. We'll probably be adding a few other states. We've done virtual mediations in many other states as well. We just need to make sure you know the individual issues on each state that are nuances of that particular state. So let's talk about the main processes. So the one, if you have children, is what happens with the kids. What do we do with the children? Well, there's a couple things. One is, where are the kids going to spend time, and how are we going to afford the different things around the kids? So let's talk about time. That's called a parenting plan. Other states might call it a visitation plan. It's called different kinds of things in different states, but in each state it's basically saying where are the kids going to stay and how much time are they going to be there, what's that schedule going to look like. Most states will use the term residential parent if it's a parent where the child is spending most of their time. Some states will call it the custodial parent. Doesn't really matter what label it is, it's just basically we're talking about building what's called a parenting plan about how much time kids are going to spend with each parent, and knowing there's consistency around it, and knowing the kids can depend on it, the parents know what's going on. Those things are really important to avoid conflict. So we work really hard as mediators to avoid conflict. We're there to help create peace, not to create chaos. So a good parenting plan is really helpful, and we'll ask you questions and kind of drill down on some really detailed stuff, because we find it's better to have the detail to fall back on than not to have it at all. So our plans are typically pretty detailed, and not only for time but also around the money pieces too. So you're going to hear more about that later on. We're going to talk more in detail about that whole piece. I just want to introduce you to it right now. So there's going to be a lot of decisions that are going to be made around the kids, both where they live and the money that flows around the kids. The second one is your assets and your liability. We're going to treat you like a corporation, because basically when you got married you began a corporation. So you have a balance sheet, you have a profit and loss sheet, and we're going to look at assets and liabilities, and we're going to look at what seems to be fair. I mean, fair is always interesting, it's always lies in the eyes of the beholder. People ask me all the time, Randy, will mediation be fair? And I say, well, it's because you're both participating in this together, and we're going to give you legal counsel to help you through the process. We're going to ask you to go out and get some legal counsel, and so that you know what your rights are, and we're going to do our best to make this as peaceful a situation as possible, and one where you both land in the best possible situation. We want a sustainable agreement that is good for everyone. So that's the other piece. So there's some financial concerns to talk about, and we'll talk about those later. The last one is spousal support, and typically spousal support varies again from state to state. Some actually have formulas. In most states it's very fact dependent. That's especially when we want you to usually get a legal consultation is around spousal support, because it varies quite a bit. So that's also typically the most difficult conversation to have. So some people don't want any spousal support, and if both parties agree that that's the best thing, then that's the best thing. Oftentimes one party is seeking spousal support, the other party may be rebuffing it. That's where mediation comes in. That's where we really work to help you land in a place that makes sense for you. So that's a quick overview about the options of divorce. Now we're going to kind of drill into a lot of the detail around what divorce really looks like.